The biggest name.
You're locked into JJ and Alex with the insight and analysis on the teams you can't live without. Presented by G2G Bars. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome on in. JJ and Alex, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Alex Keary, Mitch Harper joining today. I don't know if you've noticed, we've been kind of giving JJ a Friday off here and there.
That's good. He needs it.
He does. And we're going to look, because here's what's going to happen. Football season's going to start up. He's going to be doing every game night live you can imagine. He's going to be doing all of the the Sunday stuff with all the locals in the NFL, on top of all of our college football coverage, et cetera. And my goodness, it's going to hit us all pretty quick. You and I, in no time, it's going to be us doing the Big 12 show for KSL News Radio at 2 a.m. And it's awesome because now we have Utah and BYU to be able to chat about in the Big 12, that's and right. That's been the big talking point. And, well, look, I think that things just got even better for us here at KSL Sports and the KSL Sports Zone. Joining us on the program right now, he will soon be a member of the KSL Sports family. Steve Bartle, going to be our insider for KSLSports.com, and he's going to be joining these airwaves quite often. Steve, welcome to the family, almost.
Yes, almost. I can't wait for August 1st, man. It can't get here soon enough. I'm excited to join the family and excited to get after it.
Next week's going to be big. Utah Fall Camp on Monday. Then you join August 1st. Then Utah joins the Big 12 officially August 2nd. Big week coming up.
It is. And looking forward to a lot of it. Obviously, personally, with the move to KSL Sports. For me, August 1st is a big one for me and my family here. But, it's so awesome that, we've got football right around the corner, right? Utah getting fall camp started. And, we had an opportunity to interact with a lot of those players today at our golf event. And man, these guys are ready to get after it, ready to get into camp, to get to work. And, they're enjoying their final few days of summer, but they are absolutely ready to get after this thing in the Big 12 this season.
Utah officially joins, kind of an interesting wonky timeline based off of, the exchange, or going from the Pac-12 over to the Big 12, the August 2nd. I don't know if you saw this, but the University of Texas spent $2.3 million on a party to be able to kick off their time in the SEC. What is Utah going to do to spend $2.4 million for a party? My question is are they going to have a big party on August 2nd? Or, that's going to be in the middle of everything. I don't know if Mark Harlan's going to be excited about putting a big old party together, but you got to do something on the day of that you go into a new conference.
They will certainly recognize the move to the Big 12 that day. I don't know that there's $2.4 million in the budget for a party. I don't expect Pitbull to be on campus next week. But look, man, it's still a big day for the university to recognize the move to the Big 12. There's a lot of excitement about the move, and certainly they're ready to make the move and make it official. It's been all but official up to this point, and I think we'll certainly see some things on August 2nd to commemorate the move.
Steve, getting ready for the show today, I enjoyed your across the green golf cart convos with players, and among those conversations, I'm curious, just who are some of the players that just in your conversations that you feel are going to have some really big seasons this year for Utah?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a season where the veterans are going to lead this team, the guys that we're familiar with that have already proven themselves and have led this team to success in years past, right? The Cam Risings, the Brent Keithys, the names that we're familiar with. The guys, Mekhi Bernard, Lander Barton, those are going to be the important figures for Utah. And I think, Lander is particularly important for that defense side of the ball. As he enters year 3, at Utah, I think this is going to be the season where it all sort of comes together for him, right? And I think when you talk about the talent that Lander Barton possesses, when you see him, when you stand next to him, and just the stature, and you know the athleticism that he has, you've seen the talent that he possesses. When you think of what that's going to look like with 3 years in the system, it's really exciting to think of what he's going to be capable of this season. And I think for Utah, you need him to be that guy. You need him to take that next step beyond, the guys that we're super familiar with, the guys that, the Cams, the Brants, the pillars of this program. I think Utah also needs some guys to take big steps forwards. And, a couple of those guys I was able to talk with in those, golf cart combos, and, a couple that come to mind in particular is free safety Teo Johnson, who's making the move from nickel. That move to free safety, I think, is going to be a great place for him to settle in as a football player. He's been this dynamic athlete in the program, and he did wonders at nickel last year for Utah. Set the tone for the season for the defense in game one with that big hit against Ricky Pearsall, on the very first play from scrimmage for them. And, he's excited to make the move to free safety. He's taken to it really well. And he's the kind of kid that, really takes pride in understanding the nuances, the deeper reasonings behind why they do certain things on the defense side of the ball. And when you talk about that free safety position, it's the last safety net of the defense, right? They have to know the intricacies of each and every play and why certain things need to happen. And I think he's very well suited for that position and for that sort of role, given his background as a high school quarterback and understanding the necessity of understanding those things. So I think he's a guy that I look to take a big step forward. And then one last one is there's Spencer Fano making the move to right tackle, coming off an all-American season. On the other side of him is going to be redshirt freshman Caleb Lomu, who I think is going to be just imperative. Him taking control of that left tackle spot allows Spencer to move back to his natural right tackle position. And Caleb is he's an incredible athlete. At 6'5", 305 pounds, the flexibility that he has, the athleticism that he possesses, he has all the qualities you want in that elite sort of tackle prospect, right? And I think for him, taking control of that left tackle spot and establishing himself as the guy at that spot, he needs to step up and protect the blind side for Cam and be a force in the run game. I think he's got to take a step forward this year. I feel really optimistic about what that looks like and his chances to do exactly that this season.
Steve, 'tis the season for everybody to go, what are your biggest concerns of this Utah team? And, it's nice to have all the good pub and to get all ready before they even show up into the Big 12. People seem to respect what Utah is doing. All the conversations with the coaches that we had down at Media Day, for as much as they respect, quote unquote, Kyle Whittingham and what he does and what Utah does, there's a big question mark too. Does that work as an advantage for Utah or a disadvantage for the Utes when they go in and it's a bunch of programs that they're not very familiar with, and vice versa? All these programs are going to get to know a little bit what Utah and Kyle Whittingham football is. Yeah,
that's a unique dynamic about this whole thing is that, Utah is going into a conference where, they've got to learn about these programs, foundational, basic, things about these programs. They're starting from scratch on a lot of these programs. And so, that's a unique dynamic. But at the same time, all of these other programs are going through the same process and learning about Utah. And so it's definitely a unique process. And I think, for Utah, understanding what they have and what they bring back, I think that is an advantage for them in one sense, in the sense that they know who they are, they know what works, they know how to get it done. They know how to win because they've done it with a lot of this same group. And I think that that's a big deal for them and just a big thing for their mindset going into the Big 12 Conference. But it's certainly this unique aspect, in the sense that there's just this bit of unknown and this bit of mystery that, Utah has to learn about these programs, and you don't necessarily have all the answers before you step on the field and actually, go through a test with these programs that you haven't faced before. And so I think that is certainly going to be, an interesting dynamic this season that will leave, a bit of, there will be a question going into each and every one of these games with these new programs. And I think it makes it interesting, it makes it exciting. And I think that will certainly be a process for Utah to work through. They've been hard at work, in the film room, since spring ball ended. They've been doing their homework, for the last couple months, getting, their scouting reports together and getting a better sense of what these programs are about, so that once they get on the field, they're as prepared as they could be, from that perspective. But you just don't know truly what these programs are about until you get on the field and you go to war.
That'll
certainly be a process.
That was my favorite part of that Big 12. Mitch can attest to this too. When you sit down with those coaches and you go, "Tell me what your thoughts are on Utah," and they go, "Oh, physical,
yep.
well coached."
Yep.
They're going down in the list in their head like, "Oh crap, what has somebody told me about Utah?" And I think it was I don't know if it was I think it was actually Chris Kleiman. He goes, "We're scared to death because one, they could actually." There's an absolute scenario where those two teams don't meet up. They're not playing in the regular season. They could totally see each other in the Big 12 championship game. And he was like, I'm scared to death of these guys because we don't know anything about them. I mean, at least he was honest about it, because it's like BYU last year was like Lance Leipold. Oh, mature. They're pretty old guys. We like
24,
them. They're 28 years 26. Old. Yeah. And, you go through the same thing as I was like, I think these guys.
Utah wasn't dealing with that stereotype.
No, but they could very well. Every team, by the way, in COVID years now, every team's got 27-year-olds on the roster. So everybody needs to shut up about the age stuff. But no, it was interesting because, I think it's a benefit because Kyle Whittingham will be like, our guys are going to study the heck out of these dudes on film, and we're going to go out there and punch them in the mouth. Let's talk about I did want to ask about the wideouts. Dorian Singer, this is a guy who, you think about his 1,100-yard season at Arizona, then he goes to USC last year, and, the production falls off. That's a disaster of a place in my mind. To go to LA is probably why he left too. But is this finally, and again, this is the time of year we ask this question, is this finally the time, or is this the offense that Andy Ludwig is going to be able to let Dorian Singer cook, or some of these wideouts, and finally break through with a 1,000-yard receiver for the first time in a while?
Yeah, with Utah, this is a pretty – it is that season. The season is upon us when we start talking about the potential of the passing game, and are we going to see more of it this year, right? That's when football season is right around the corner, when we get to this topic. But I genuinely think when you look at this team and you assess their strengths and you go back to spring ball and what we saw with this group, right, the strength of the offensive line, they were really, really good in pass pro. The run game was a bit of a work, and credit the Utah defense that they were going up against in spring ball. That's priority number one for them, is taking away the run game. Run game, it struggled for, at times, in terms of the blocking up front and getting movement, but that's, more credit to the defensive front there. But the offensive line, they've got tremendous athletes, and you love the way that they looked in pass protection. You look at the tight end position with Brant Keefe coming back, with Landon King, and what we saw from him late in the season last year. That he's an athlete that, he flashed some real skill in catching the football. So you like what they have in those two. They brought in Carson Ryan, who's a bigger traditional tight end who also is really good, running routes, catching passes. They brought him in to be that guy. And then there's this other guy, Dallin Bentley, that, he's the guy. He's the starter at that wide tight end position Carson Ryan, those two are going to go at it. So that tight end position, you've got some pass catchers there. At wide receiver with Dorian Singer, Utah brought him in to be that guy, to be that Arizona 2022 guy for them. That's why they're bringing him in. They want him to be that receiver. They want him to be that productive. Not only did they bring in Dorian Singer to be that guy, they brought in another big time receiver in the transfer portal in the spring window in Damian Alford, who's 6'6", 210 pounds. He played at Syracuse, where, if you watched Syracuse last year, it was a struggle. It was definitely tough with the offense. Very similar to Utah in the sense that the quarterback situation wasn't what it was anticipated it was going to be going into the year. And, they struggled. But you bring a guy in that, 600 yards to his name last season, I think about 1,200, 900,000 yards in total over the course of his career. You've got Money Parks coming back. I look at Singer and Parks as the top two wide receivers in that room, with Alford, Micah Pittman, Dadrian Zipper, who took a big step forward coming off a redshirt freshman season. You really like the strength of this team and what it means for the passing game with Cam Rising and his ability. His strength is his mind and his ability to get Utah into the right plays, into the correct situations more often than not. And I think with him being where he's at in his career, with Ludwig and all of this and the weapons that they've brought in, I do think there are a lot of signs that point to this team being, a more pass-friendly offense. And frankly, it's time for Utah to embrace that, because it impacts a lot. It impacts recruiting pretty significantly. And Utah's, heavily interested in one wide receiver recruit in the state of Utah in particular, who is very interested in Utah's passing game this season. So I do think, there's a lot of signs a lot of indications that point to the passing game being more open this year than what we've seen in years past. And I think a guy like Dorian Singer will greatly benefit from that. And again, they brought him in to be more of the Arizona 2022 type Dorian Singer.
Steve, since you brought him up, Jerome Miles, the wide receiver at Corner Canyon, with recruiting, you're going to be covering all that and doing great stuff. You've become an authority on Utah football recruiting and basketball recruiting in your previous stops. I'm curious, where does Utah stand on Jerome Miles? Because I know he got a recent Ohio State offer.
Yeah, and the offers are only going to continue to come in for him, because he is that good. He is that legit talent. When you talk about a kid that's 6'2", 210 pounds, and can run, 10.5, 10.3, in the 100 meter, those types of athletes, that receiver, are the types that get the offers from USC and Ohio State and LSU. And so this is going to be an intense battle, right? He was silently committed to Utah, which, how beneficial are silent commits in today's recruiting world, right? But, after that, he committed to Ole Miss. He's now backed off that pledge, and Utah has emerged again as, a top contender in his recruitment again. Now with Ohio State, USC, and LSU, this is going to be a battle to the very end. And for Utah, the thing here for Utah is NIL, right? And the opportunity to play close to home, the relationships that he has with certain players, Isaac Wilson being a key part of that. Those are going to be important factors for Utah working in their favor. And again, with where we're at in recruiting, NIL can be a great equalizer, right? Utah and BYU and some of these other programs can't compete with an Oregon or an Ohio State on an LSU in terms of the quantity of players that they can offer big NIL to. But for a select few, you can be really, really competitive on that front. And for Jerome Miles in Utah, that's where we're at with this, is Utah can be very competitive with him on that front, and that can, help Utah in this situation a great deal.
Steve Bartle. He joins the KSL family next week officially, and we felt like we needed to get a head start across the station and be able to jump in with Steve and to get all these thoughts. And this is why you're coming on, because we love having all this conversation. Steve, we're looking forward to it, and whatever. I don't know. We got to have some sort of a. Well, we can't say hazing, right? There's some version of whatever a sports radio station hazing
Bring
could
it
be.
on, baby.
It'll mostly just include us buying food for one another.
Yeah, lots of
That's
food.
what I
Make
mean.
Nate-
Bring it on,
make
baby. I
Nate-
know where we're going.
Make Nate take us out to dinner a few times. We'll be like, it's just for staff purposes. You know about this. We're trying to build some rapport here, Nate. Come on. Oh my goodness. All right, Steve. We're looking forward to it, man. Good job. We'll talk to you again next week.
See you, Steve.
Sounds good, fellas. We'll see you soon.
There you go, Steve Bartle, everybody.
Good stuff.
Good ad.
Good insight.
It's going to be really good for us. All right, we're going to take a break here. Yeah, man, we got tons going on. Tons of irons in the fire. Gosh, football's right on the corner. Hey, University of Utah Health, we've been having this conversation all day today, and we want to jump in again another time. We'll jump out with the folks at University of Utah Health.